Hello, I'm Casey Aiken, and this is 21 This Week. Coming up next, will hell freeze over before there's a thaw in the government shutdown? Albanese steps down, Mink wants to reinvent herself, and Friedson is trying to control his own destiny. And are there any good delis in the DMV? The best may be right here in Montgomery County. Our panel of insiders will give you the story behind the story. We're joined by attorney and former House of Delegate member Marice and Stacey Souter, a member of the Montgomery County Republican Central Committee. Stay tuned for these stories and more on the next 21 This Week. Washington is entering the third week of a federal government shutdown. Both sides claim the upper hand. Democrats demanding extensions of health care benefits that they earlier voted for, which would expire in December. Republicans are insisting on a clean continuing resolution and the government reopening first. Polls show Americans blame everyone. Who's really winning this standoff and at what cost? Marice, it was the Democratic Congress that enacted the enhanced premium tax credits as part of the American Rescue Plan Act of 2021, and to address the COVID crisis, and then extended them in 22 during the Inflation Reduction Act, and they were set to expire this December. Now, these enhanced premium credits were supposed to be short term. They were supposed to be a subsidy for COVID. Why are our taxpayers being asked to fund another extension instead of passing a clean continuing resolution?
I'm so glad that you brought up those subsidies, because since then, Casey, we've seen Americans more than double actually depend on these subsidies. We have 24 million Americans who are currently enrolled in their state exchange that's part of the ACA, or formerly known as Obamacare. And 3/4 of the majority of those enrollees come from states that voted for Trump. And why does this even matter? At the end of the day, it's the American people that we're all losing. We should not be the Democrats or the Republicans standing by the health care benefits of American citizens. At this point, we're all Americans. We're all losing. And I remember, in the 90s when healthcare should not be a partisan issue. When it comes to having access to affordable healthcare, it should be, especially right now, the executive. So our president should be unifying both parties so that we can actually come up with not just an extension, but actually an appropriate policy that really allows for folks to afford their healthcare. I think at this point, I'm ashamed. I have no faith in our Congress, but I think that Democrats are doing the right thing, and most Americans agree with that.
Well, that's debatable, but so let's see what Stacey has to say. Stacey, Marice correctly points out that 24 million Americans are now dependent on these healthcare supplements. Many are in red states that rely on the subsidies. But so are Republicans courting disaster with their refusal to negotiate? Every time they seem to wade into the Obamacare, ACA, cesspool, they end up losing. So what's going to happen here?
Casey, this is not a commentary on the fact that some people need relief from the high cost of healthcare. That's true, but let's be clear: extending those subsidies the last time was a disastrous decision for the Democrats. Likely feeling confident that they'd be in power until at least 2028, it was easy to believe they could slide them into permanent entitlement status, but they lost. And so Republicans winning big, it puts them in a position where they can do what they're doing, I think. I think that it also could end up hurting more Americans if they end up losing their job and their health insurance by taking this firm stand. My prediction is that the No Kings rally will not be as well attended as they hope, and that by the end of next week, Chuck Schumer will be looking for an exit strategy. They'll never admit defeat, but for the sake of the American people, let's hope they step up, pass the clean CR, and then try to negotiate some kind of extension that is less costly and perhaps phased out over time. The problem with the Democrats is that they always want big social programs. They want They want it all. They want it now. And no matter the cost, if they could learn to do these things incrementally, then these programs could launch, get fine-tuned, and perhaps over time become rational policy that benefits a lot more people instead of allowing the people to get jerked around every 4 years. So in my opinion, the Republicans are not the ones courting disaster here.
Well, Marice, the first ACA deadline isn't until November 1st. So are we likely to see this just gets extended out, this fight, because both sides are unwilling to give because they don't trust each other?
It's unpredictable. I think at this point, Americans will have to, and they have, and I disagree with Stacey wholeheartedly. I think Americans are standing up. I think, folks, if it's the No Kings rally or any kind of rally, I think it's going to be up to the American voters to really raise their voices. And to say that for us to extend the ACA, which is, by the way, it's a marketplace. Republicans like to toss around the word social programs. This is not. It's not all government based. These are it's a marketplace, and which means that different providers are going to be offering these services, and prices will be a function of the market. It's not all subsidies. It's not all social programs. It's not a European social program where universal healthcare does expand. So it's very important to remember that the American viewer or listener, they're educated. They understand what's a social program versus a marketplace, which is the American Care Act, Affordable Care Act is a marketplace. It is not just a government funded program for folks to have free access to healthcare. I just wanted to make that abundantly clear.
Here's the problem. I want to go to Stacey on this. Stacey, these programs are actually administered by the states. Maryland, in particular, has to cover this federal program themselves. So shouldn't the governor be responsible for balancing this budget better and handling some of these anticipated costs?
Yes, I think that's true, and I think that we might be talking a little bit more about that later on. But some of these things seem to come out of the blue when they happen. Nobody would have anticipated that we would get to this point where the entitlements would be drawn out as far as where these subsidies would have been drawn out at the amounts that they are for so long. And so it's really, to Marice's point earlier, that it is really, it's so important for both parties to get together and really focus on this as a team, but they're not going to do this in this present state of mind, and they won't do it unless the Democrats pass that clean continuing resolution. And then I believe that the Republicans really will come to the table with them to discuss this. They know that Americans are hurting where healthcare is concerned.
All right, so let's discuss the exit question, because as I read earlier, polls show most voters fault Republicans slightly more than the Democrats on this. So who's going to come out winning on this particular issue? Marice, real quick from you, and then Stacey.
I'm hoping that the American people, and that means Democrats, because the Democrats have the righteous fight, which is to make sure that people will not be thrown off of their healthcare benefits, their healthcare coverage.
Stacey.
You know what? I just look at this like politics has turned into one big blame the other pinata. Everybody's taking swings and hoping to score the last hit and grab the candy. And it's no different with taking whacks at the federal government in this case. And so even if they're successful at cracking it open, there are only so many spoils to go around, which brings it back to the governors. The governors need to anticipate that the federal government is going to run short on funds. So they have to do whatever they can to buttress their economies.
Well, so we're going to switch topics now. But the thing that, that this show loves to talk about is Montgomery County politics and gossip. That's what we really like to focus on. And so there have been quite a bit of goings on in Montgomery County Council, and political landscape is shifting. Councilmember Gabe Alvarez is stepping down. Kristen Mink is defending her position on rent control as critics cite a collapse in multifamily housing. And Andrew Friedson's housing agenda sparks a backlash in his own backyard in District 1. So, Stacey, Gabe Alvarez announced he was resigning on December 1st. By resigning on December 1st, he avoids a special election. It allows the county council or the party in power to appoint his successor. So what is going to happen going forward? And shouldn't Albanese have resigned on November 31st instead?
Well, hear that they get to control the agenda a little bit better. And so where cronyism is concerned or inside politics, that they're going to have a field day with this one. I can't imagine the jockeying that's going on right now. And the truth is they're entitled to choose whomever they want in this scenario, so long as that person is a Democrat. So Marice, are you up for the job? Because I'm nominating you. You're qualified as anyone. You're smart. You've held elected office before. Do you want me to make a phone call to anyone?
That would be the 20th call I've gotten this week. Thank you, Stacey.
Well, but look, in all honesty, I ran for the county council in 2000. 2000, when Betty Ann Cronkey, who was the Republican District 1 representative at the time, and she had Lou Gehrig's disease, but she did the right thing. She announced her resignation prior to December 1st, and then there was a special election, and there was a primary of Republicans and Democrats that ran for that seat. Roger Berliner, as it turned out, won the Democratic primary, and Howie Denis won the Republican primary and defeated, Pat Baptiste won the Democratic primary. Pat Baptiste lost to Howie in the general election. So shouldn't the voters have the responsibility for deciding, Marice, as to who gets elected or is selected for this position?
Absolutely. Absolutely. This rule comes out of the county code. So somebody had to come up with it. I've always, I'm a constitutionalist. Whenever we have to decide who's going to be leading the priorities that, most benefit our county. It should be the people that elect. However, given the time frame, and, I would push back a little bit on Stacey's comments in that, I don't see the cronyism. If there was, then Gabe would have already had somebody who he would be touting. And we actually know that, there's a huge vacuum right now. He's Hispanic, I'm Hispanic, and, there's a lot of, I would say, race politics that we're still dealing with, obviously, in the county. And so a lot of, even within the Latino Democrats, we're kind of scratching our heads like, we didn't know this was happening. And so with now Gabe being gone, and we don't want to lose that Latino male representation. So there is a little bit of a rush going around where they are looking for a Latino to take that seat. Now, there's other politics where, it's going to be county council members who are going to have to decide, right? So you need to have good relationships with the sitting council members. So there's a lot of inside politics, like really kind of very micro little, politics where it's not just anybody's going to be able to take that seat.
Well, that just kind of reaffirms the point that it should be up to the voters and not up to the chairman of the Democratic Party in Montgomery County. Stacey, I want to turn to you though about what's going on with Councilmember Mink. It seems that she may have some regrets regarding her advocacy of rent control, particularly since there's been a huge backlash because there's been no multifamily development as a result thereof. Is she trying to just protect herself?
Oh, of course. And this is such a thorny issue. Developers tend to argue that any slowdown in construction is harmful to the market because they see lost profits and delayed projects. And on the other hand, tenants experience skyrocketing rents and displacement firsthand. They feel the pain immediately while waiting for quote unquote market adjustments, which could take years. The truth is that temporary slowdown, some argue for, is far preferable to unchecked rent spikes that force families out of their homes. What's more, Montgomery County already suffered immeasurable economic losses under this policy. We've seen stalled development, fewer jobs in construction and related industries, reduced investment in our communities. So all this happened despite overwhelming evidence that from other cities that impose strict rent control. It just doesn't achieve its intended goals, which is to protect the tenants. While it does impose real costs in the local economy, they should have left it alone. But like I mentioned
Well,
earlier, the
I
Democrats, they
wanna-
want it big, they want it now, and they want it all. It's not a good way to govern.
So, but Marice, let's focus on the politics of it. I mean, is Councilmember Mink feeling that she's in danger of losing some political support because of her positions on this? This is why she's coming out so strongly in support, saying that it wasn't rent control that caused the loss of development.
Yeah, I mean, at the forefront, I would say that I respect Councilmember Mink wholeheartedly.
Yeah.
The issue here is I think that, and this is like sometimes it's a little bit of a rookie mistake. Sometimes, we are very self-righteous. We run on these values, et cetera. But when you haven't had the experience of public office before, it's really easy to fall into these traps and really kind of just follow what the advocates who got you into that seat kind of bully you on. And so that's why it's very important to, stay true to yourself, but also, you can't have this narrow view that, you're gonna fall flat, which is what's happening right now with what she said previously when she was for the rent control legislation, right? And we saw that memo that she floated around saying basically that rent control would not harm investment. And now Montgomery County is being redlined by national real estate financiers. So I think it was a rookie mistake. I think that she has, everybody, like anybody else can make a mistake. I think the fact that she is learning from her mistakes and speaking up now, I think it's a little bit late, but and this is an issue that I had to deal with in my district because I had Leisure World, I had, very residential area in my district, but then also I had Wheaton in areas where we do see a lot of recent buildings that were built. And so the housing affordability issue is very thorny. It is very tricky. You have to be able to understand, what it is that you need to do to attract.
Marice, I got to cut you off, and that's why you should accept Stacey's endorsement to for the vacancy. But I want to turn to see what's going on with Mr. Friedson, because he's supposedly been given the mantle for the Democratic Party of the David Blair position, the kind of good government, pro-growth Democrat. And Stacey, I'll start with you. What do you think is happening with his campaign? Do you think he's gaining momentum in that regard? And but is there a weakness because of his support on development in District 1?
Well, the short answer to that is yes. I've been to many of the protests in his district, which is mine, against the proposals he's backed, and the constituents are angry as hell. But Frieson's no dummy. And as a candidate for county executive, he'll need to appeal to as many voters as possible throughout Montgomery County, not just the elite in Bethesda, Potomac, and Chevy Chase. My best guess is that he's made a very calculated decision on how to proceed. I'm not certain at the moment, but the last I read, he'd already established a sizable war chest, which may not grow as much as he'd like, but that makes him extremely competitive in the upcoming race. Therefore, he might have felt he could afford to take a stronger stand for people outside of the district while losing some of his stalwart support in District 1.
Well, we'll see. Marice, how do you look at this horse race between Will Jawando and Friedson, and then there's one other council member that's in the race? I mean, this is a real contest, isn't it?
It really is. It really is. And I'm friends with all three. I think Andrew is my age. I think he's done a phenomenal job to make his district a fun area to live, work, and play. I have a lot of my friends who have moved into his district, and that's the issue, is that while you're pro housing, pro development, you have some of the older folks who have been living in their large mansions for 30 plus years who don't like that development. So again, this is an issue that I had to deal with in parts of my district, and I think it's going to be tough, but not impossible, I believe, for Andrew.
That's what we're here for. We're here to read the tea leaves. But as we go to break, density, affordability, political ambition, it's a lively mix here in Montgomery County. But sometimes the toughest debates are not over politics, but over pastrami. Stay tuned when we come back from this short break.
Jordan knows he shouldn't eat this entire bowl of nachos, but tonight he's earned that right because a few hours ago in the middle of happy hour, he recognized a sign, not from the gods or a bolt of lightning, but from a double heart, a kissy face, and a fourth ha in ha ha ha. That's when Jordan knew he was buzzed. So when it was time to go, he got a ride home instead of driving. Be a legend like Jordan. Recognize your buzzed warning signs and get a ride home. Buzz driving is drunk driving.
When I first saw Turtle, my heart was full. Now I'm anything but lonely.
We had this deep connection, this heart connection.
He just wants to be close to you and part of your life.
Every day with Turtle is a perfect day.
When I'm holding her, it makes me feel calmer.
I think everything he does shows how much he loves us.
When we adopt a shelter pet,
We discover
they're a little bit of a lot of things.
But they're all pure love.
Welcome back. A New York food critic toured the Washington region hunting for authentic Jewish delis and found that the suburbs might outshine DC or Virginia, and that means Montgomery County. Marice, the Washington Post published a fun article about the search for the best pastrami sandwich, an authentic New York City deli in the DMV. And who do you think won? It was Atman's in Potomac and Parkway in Silver Spring. What do you think?
Parkway is right. It's right around the corner. It's right in my neighborhood. So I love that place. It's always busy. And it's one of my favorite, to-goes for my meetings, and it's delicious.
Stacey, do you think it was right to judge on pastrami and not corned beef? And which one is your favorite deli?
Casey, listen, I used to live in Manhattan, and I can say unequivocally, while a few Moco delis are competitive, the Lower East Side doesn't have anything to worry about. No bus people are coming from New York to here. But I will also say that Atman's is one of my favorites when I crave that kind of food. And when I get sick, there is nothing I want more than Atman's chicken noodle matzo ball soup. In fact, I frequently take a quart of it to my friends when they get sick. And now that I think of it, thankfully, it's almost lunchtime because now I'm craving Atman's.
Well, we all have our favorites. I know Jake, our producer, likes Twin Brook Deli, and I prefer Brooklyn's. So we all have our favorites, and I love the pastrami. I only eat it every once in a while because it's too rich for me. Anyway, when we come back from this break, parting shots.
Hey world, I have a quick message. It's about safe driving. All right, let's go. Anytime you're driving, have the seatbelt buckled tight. Both hands on the wheel and your phone out of sight. When not in your hand trying to text somebody back. Because if you do, your car might get smacked. The moral of the story, just put your phone down. The people on the road will stay safe and sound. Put your phone down, put your phone down. People on the road will stay safe and sound. Yeah.
Jordan knows he shouldn't eat this entire bowl of nachos, but tonight he's earned that right because a few hours ago in the middle of happy hour, he recognized a sign, not from the gods or a bolt of lightning, but from a double heart, a kissy face, and a fourth ha in ha ha ha. That's when Jordan knew he was buzzed. So when it was time to go, he got a ride home instead of driving. Be a legend like Jordan. Recognize your buzzed warning signs and get a ride home. Buzz driving is drunk driving.
And welcome back. Now with party shots, Marice Morales.
Now that we are seeing county politics really ramp up, I am just re-inviting our viewers, voters to be engaged. I know that it's really hard to keep up with local news, but when it comes to county executive and county council seats, these are the individuals whose decisions really impact our lives and how our neighborhoods are being built, et cetera. So just reminding everybody to stay in touch and to make sure that your vote counts.
Thank you, Marice. Stacey Souter, your parting shot.
Thanks, Casey, to you and your viewers, and to Marice for being here today. It's always fun. I just want to let the viewers know that while the Democrats seem to have an invincible juggernaut in the state, even a giant falls when it trips over its own feet. And with all their missteps over the past few years, the Republicans here feel confident that we can and will make a difference in the next election. We're doing our best to bring balance to our local politics, and we love your involvement. If you're interested, please reach out to us at mcgop.com. Thanks.
Thank you, Stacey. Thank you, Marice. Thank you. Really appreciate your sacrifice of time each and every week to help Montgomery County residents keep current on political events. It's so important that we have a good voice out there that everyone can listen to. I want to thank the audience for tuning in each and every week to Montgomery County's hardest hitting political talk show. For 21 This Week, I'm Casey Aiken.